what was going through your mind at this stage? Because you started off on the wrong foot here. Do you
Hmm.
know exactly what happened, or is this just part of the process, part of the edge? What talk
So
us
I think,
through this period? Welcome back to the CTI YouTube channel. Today we get the pleasure of meeting Alex, who's recently passed the CTI evaluation. You're going to learn about his story, you're going to learn about his struggles, a little bit about his strategy. We'll even go through his statement to see how he actually done it. So if you are interested in one of our funded accounts, use the link in the description below for full details. And don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and most importantly, enjoy the video. So let's bring in Alex. Hey Alex, how's it going?
no, I'm all right. How are you doing?
Very, very well, thank you. And well done for passing the CTI challenge.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy thing to do, but you've obviously demonstrated that you have an edge and you know how to follow rules. Tell us about yourself, where you're from, and how you got into trading.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, I currently live in the United States. So, I got into trading around 2016. I was really interested in stock trading. I didn't really know anything about Forex. So that's kind of where I got my first taste in terms of, going into the financial market. And at that time, it kind of was a side thing. I wasn't really too sure how, much time I was going to spend into it, how serious I was going to get into it. But the more I researched it, the more interested I got. So about a year and a half later, I eventually ended up meeting my mentor. His name is Ken. Introduced me to Forex. Didn't know what Forex was. So after spending some time with my mentor, learning how to trade, I became more and more interested. And then fast forward about 4 to 5 years later, I'm currently a educator for a wonderful mentorship program called Simple Trading Solutions. And I'm one of the main educators for not only higher time frame trading, swing trading, which is what my specialty is, but I also spend some time researching prop firms, funding evaluations, helping people develop psychology, mindset, and how to properly manage, passing evaluations, the first or second time, and really speaking through experiences that I've gone through, failures that I've gone through, to give them that edge, so then that way they can, get to where they financially want to go. So, trading has always been a way to help pay myself through nursing school, because besides trading full time, I'm also a student as well, going through nursing full time. So it's been a really nice balance having to, spend the time that I can dedicate towards trading while also focusing on my studies as well. So it's made it so that I really have to be focused and driven on my trading because I don't have that much time to focus on it. So that's kind of currently what I'm doing right now, managing not only schooling, trading, but then also helping a wonderful group of people get to the same position that I am currently at and want to get to one day.
First off, you mentioned that you sought education, you sought mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure through your mentor Ken, you learned a lot of his mistakes,
Yes.
and you didn't, fall, I guess, victim to some of the mistakes that he made, because obviously that's the whole point of a mentorship. You're learning through other people's mistakes and failure. And something that we embrace as traders is failure. We have
Yep.
to embrace it. We have to. It's part of the journey. And like you've mentioned that you've gone through a lot of struggles, failures, and that has led you to become a coach yourself, an educator. And myself as a coach and educator, for me, it's such an honorable opportunity to better myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not only am I able to help others, but it's also pushes me to be accountable and to constantly improve, and not only talk the talk but walk the walk. So what kind of struggles would you say that you've had to overcome in order to be where you are today?
So one of the things I struggled with was not following a trade plan. That was one of the things that early on I realized that I didn't have. I didn't know how to formulate one. And then even the most important part, being able to follow it with discipline, no matter how enticing an opportunity might feel. Because one of the things I learned throughout my journey is, I always wanted to trade. I just always wanted to be in the market, whether the market was flowing and moving, nice volatility, or they're just periods of consolidation. I struggled early on, just always wanting to trade, which led to over trading, blowing accounts, not being profitable, looking at the end of the month and wondering, what am I doing wrong? I can win trades, but my account isn't growing. So what I struggled with is, structuring my trading, having a trading plan and having a goal. So that's one of the things I learned very important from my mentor, Ken, was to have a trade plan, structure it with the goal. So for me personally, what I have is I have a monthly goal. I know some traders like to have daily goals, weekly goals, but for me personally, my consistency came when I had a monthly goal. So for me personally, my monthly goal is 5%. So that gives me an entire month throughout my entire trading to get 5%. As I mentioned earlier at the beginning, I'm a swing trader. So for about 2 years, I've been able to consistently get that, hold positions and get that. And then once I get my goal, I stop. Because one of the things traders struggle with is they don't know when to stop trading. And then what you'll notice is a lot of the times, all those amazing profits that we accumulated throughout the month, we trade them away and we end up with a loss. So I'd say having a trade plan and having a clearly defined goal and following it is what I struggled with. And throughout the years of trading, worked really, really hard to develop it in a way that I could follow it with discipline. And because of that, I've been successful, not only passing the CTI evaluation, but passing multiple other evaluations through other prop firms, to the point that I've accumulated multiple six figures in total allocation from other prop firms. Nice. But that never would have been possible without a trade plan and a strictly defined goal. But not only a strictly defined goal, but a realistic goal, because it's not realistic to shoot for home runs. Nice, slow, consistent pace, a marathon is kind of what I've learned throughout my journey.
Yeah, guys, that's so many nuggets there. If you haven't already smashed that like button, you should, because Alex has literally laid out the blueprint of success as a trader. So thanks for sharing that, Alex. And definitely, so that wisdom there is so important. It's something that I try to live by myself as a trader. And it's that focus on a process. And it's quite interesting that you have an actual percentage goal. But if it works for you, that's great. But most importantly, before that goal, you have the process. You have your trading plan, and the trading plan is what's going to get you to that goal. The goal is just a byproduct.
Yeah, exactly.
Of you executing that process. I mean, nobody knows what the future holds. Nobody really knows
exactly
what your performance is going to be like. You can't control these outcomes or what the future is, but what you can control is following the trading plan. That's what you can control, and that can only be done in the present moment. So I think that's definitely one of the biggest struggles most traders face is actually planning their trades, trading that plan consistently. That's a massive struggle. Why do you think so many traders struggle with that? Obviously you struggled with it. Why do you think traders continue to struggle with something so simple?
Well, I think it just comes to preparation. One of the things I like to tell, my group of traders, amazing group of traders, for anyone that's really looking for, great education. I mean, not only is CTI phenomenal, in terms of their education platform, and I've personally started to seek more because I want to now graduate from kind of the little nuances that typical retail traders make into more of an institutional professional trader, because that's, as I go throughout my journey, that's what I want to become. I want to become more of maybe looking at it as a side hobby to more of a profession, more of as a business. So what I've learned is, lack of preparation. People don't take traders just don't take the time to really, lay out their plan, what they're trading, why they're trading it, taking into account fundamentals. Why is the market moving the way it is? Why is certain currencies being priced in the way they're moving? So one of the things I've done that really gave me success is when the market is closed, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's when I do my analysis. I don't have to worry about the market moving at all. It's closed. And then I really look for key areas to trade in the market, I end up spending a lot of time sitting on my hands, not trading, but I like to just trade key areas in the market, and then that's where I'm ready to execute. And then that pretty much allows me to not spend all that time on the chart, because that's what I've seen a lot of people struggle with, is they're just spending too much time on the charts, just trading way too much, over trading. That leads to a lot of struggles. But through practice and preparation and really laying out why are you trading, where you're trading, I feel like that will, through practice, really help traders get out of that slump that I personally was in for quite a bit.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said there, because not having that process, and exactly what your process is, where you're using the weekends, the time when the market is closed, to do your deep analysis, plan your trades properly. You've got the time. You can't impulsively enter a trade.
Nope.
Yeah, because you can't. The market is closed, and so you are forced to think slow and proper, and do your due diligence, and do the research. Like you said, fundamentals is a big part of what you do, and so over the weekend you've got that time to do the research. I think that's really interesting, because what a lot of traders tend to do, and what they struggle with, is that they're just they're led by their impulses. So they say that you trade in your emotions are getting in the way. I have my own thoughts of emotion. I see them more as signals, and you can weaponize your emotions and your mind in order to trade more effectively in the zone and in the flow state. But traders are confusing, obviously, and becoming very, very impulsive, because they don't have that process. They don't plan their trade. They don't have the time to think slow. Because there's a great book on this, Thinking Fast and Slow, by Daniel Kahneman. You have to decide whether, is this a decision that I need to think about in a slow way, really do my due diligence, put the research in, look at the pros and cons, look at comparables, and really find what the highest probability. And then there's the thinking fast. Thinking fast is literally when you've done the research, you've done the plan, everything's in place, it ticks all of your entry criteria. All you need to do is execute. So those listening, that you need a process that allows that type of execution. And it's quite, if you don't know these things, and if you're not putting the work in, where you're not reading material, self-development books, these type of things, if you're not it's ignorance, isn't it? And if you're ignorant to the processes, then get yourself a mentor.
I've been very fortunate that, because I know a lot of traders, they want to find a mentor, but it's it might be hard to locate a mentor. You don't know who's legitimately gone through the process, gone through the motions of what every trader struggles with leading out. So I've been very fortunate early on to find my mentor really early on, and then it was just a slow process of building up. And that's one of the things that I realized, not only as myself going through my journey as a trader, but then a lot of new people coming into the industry, is they have unrealistic expectations. We see a lot of people just throwing fluff out there, the lavish lifestyle of a trader, but they don't realize it takes a lot of very hard work that not a lot of people, for whatever reason, time, family, personal issues, just aren't able to put the time commitment needed to be in it. So I got good life lessons taught really early on. So because of that, I've built up on it. And then now through my experience, I'm pretty much giving back to members that I work with and stuff like that. So it's a nice way for it to come full circle, and also to kind of help people not go through the same mistakes I have. A little shortcut.
You gave the best advice already, which is building a trading plan and following it consistently. That has that's the edge, literally. So great topic, great subjects. So if I just bring it up here. So you started actually trading in April, end of April, and you had obviously a few wins, few losses, very controlled, which is great. We scroll all the way down to your stats. We can see here that you kept your drawdown below the 4% relative drawdown, which is great. That shows that you're able to follow good risk management and you still manage to hit that 7% target. It's very,
Yep.
very difficult to do that. And the reason why we have that relative drawdown is because that's what professional hedge funds do. You know, that's
Exactly.
that's the metric that professional traders are measured upon, because it forces you to be good with your risk management. So, what kind of risk management strategy do you follow? What kind of tips can you give?
So for risk management, specifically with the CTI evaluation and just in general, so for my portfolio accounts, I typically risk about 1/4%. So 0.25%. I may end up even being more conservative because I'm typically conservative just in general. That's a big foundation of my trade plan. So either I'd say 1/4% is my more aggressive when I have a lot of confluence and conviction in my trades. That would be toward the higher end, but then a little bit lower would be 0.125%. So half of the 1/4%. It's typically the range that I usually trade in, because it allows me, so much room and flexibility to take the trades that I need to. And by nature, as I mentioned, I'm a swing trader, so I'm already looking for good risk to reward. So through, developing my trade plan, that was that nice balance, small risk, so that I'm nowhere in danger of ever, getting to the point where my account would be endangered, but it still gives me that room, to scale into my positions, get good risk to reward. So that's kind of the range in terms of what I personally risk, and that's what I use throughout the evaluation.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can see your profit factor is at 1.93. That's fantastic. You've got a really good win ratio of 61%, almost 62%. That's brilliant. And your largest loss was $37, and your largest win was $85. So it's quite a good win there. So let's have a look at your equity here. The balance. You had a bit of a rough start in the beginning.
Yep.
And this is where most traders actually just self-sabotage. I mean, what was going through your mind at this stage? Because you started off on the wrong foot here. Do you know exactly what happened, or is this just part of the process, part of the edge? Talk us through this period.
I think it was just I think when I started my evaluation, and then during that specific period, just the analysis wasn't playing out. There was a couple of fake outs in the market where everything was setting up. But then that's one of the things I always like to follow is we can do the best analysis we can do, but at the end of the day, the market's the market and it'll move where it wants to move. So it was just a tough couple of trades early on. But then, as you said, that's where a lot of people just self-sabotage. They feel that they can't get out of it. But for me, I just continued to follow the process, just continued to analyze as I normally do. And then I knew that, and I had the confidence that at the end, I will be on top. Just have to follow that process. And then, as you can see, then got it into gear, and then was really fortunate that the last month we just had amazing movement for yen pairs. So that's where I really capitalized on it, doing my fundamental analysis, really focusing on yen pairs. And then that's where the later half of my evaluation, a big bulk of my trades came from yen pairs. So then that's where I focused specifically trading those pairs, and then not only managed to get out of the relative drawdown, but then eventually hit the profit target.
Fantastic. Yeah, I can see that the yen did very, very well for you.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
That's the thing, though. You wouldn't have been able to catch those trades if you weren't consistent with
exactly
trades.
Yes.
And continuing the process despite your forecasts not playing out.
Yep.
You continued to be consistent, and I can see you kept your losses small. So, like you said, you were risking 1/4%. Some of these were less than that, but eventually, it's that famous Stoic quote where preparation meets opportunity. That's the definition of luck. But you were prepared when the opportunity came, and you can see here you had a really, really good period.
It was quite good. It's quite good.
A very nice win there, and then you sort of maintained it, and then you went up a little bit more. So kept that risk you get that risk very well, get that risk management really consistent, which is great. And then obviously here we are today. You've kept the risk, the relative drawdown below 4%. You've hit your 30 active trading days. You've hit the 7% target. So you've proven to us that you're ready for becoming a portfolio manager.
All right.
Yeah. And so now, literally, when you reach this stage, we want to open doors for you. We want you to be the best version of yourself. And now it's a matter of rinsing and repeating what you've just done, but now scaling it.
Yes.
Right. So, and we're here. If you've got any concerns, any questions, you can always reach out to us. You can always reach out to me. You've got your mentor, obviously, of course. But like you said earlier, we take a little bit more of professional sort of trading type of guidance, because we're professional traders ourselves. And I mean, what an amazing opportunity. It's like these are like the golden years for retail traders.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Where we've got the opportunity to manage literally a fortune, over seven figures in capital, from the comfort of anywhere with an internet connection, as long as you can prove that you can follow an edge, as long as you can be consistent with that, as long as you're willing to make those sacrifices like that we discussed earlier, and focus on that process. So, and you're literally you talk the talk and you walk the walk. You've proven yourself not only to us but to yourself, which is most importantly. And you really truly need to believe that you can do this. And so I'm definitely looking forward to hearing more about your success. And also I want to ask you, if you could go back in time and perhaps talk to yourself, what advice would you give yourself as a new trader or somebody that wants to succeed in this?
I would say, don't rush the process, because one of the things I did is I tried to learn too much too fast, and then I didn't stick to a specific thing, like a specific strategy. Because one of the things that I realized starting off is I wasn't committed to one thing. I'd spend a couple of weeks trying one thing and then have unrealistic expectations that I would find consistency through that. And then I was quick to give up. Then I would go to the next thing and the next thing. And then before you know it, I'm just picking each and every little thing, trying to combine them all. Wasn't really finding that success that I was looking for. So I'd say if I could go back in time, I would tell myself to just focus on a single thing, commit time to that specific strategy, become a master of that strategy, because that's where really the consistency comes. And then it wasn't until I decided to focus specifically on swing trading, higher time frame trading from the weekly, daily, 4-hour, that I saw my consistency. And then I spent all my time perfecting that edge on large scale time frame trading. And then that's when my success skyrocketed, because I wasn't splitting my time trying different strategies here and there. I found what worked for me, and then I became a master of that strategy, and then now I implement it throughout all my trading. So I would say to not only to myself but any new trader, to have realistic expectations and to not rush the process. It will take time. For some it might take longer than others, for some it might be shorter, but it's definitely a time commitment that a lot of people are not ready for, and so they go through the process. So just realize it's going to be a long journey, but it's a very rewarding journey. And all the time that I've spent, I wouldn't trade any of the time that I've invested, because it's not only gotten me to the point in my trading that I'm very confident, but it's also developed other aspects of my life, and I wouldn't give up the journey that I've gone through for anything.
Good. That amazing wisdom and advice, Alex. Well done again. Congratulations. I wish you all the best in your trading journey. What an amazing interview with Alex. He demonstrates exactly the type of trader that we're looking for. Traders that focus on their process, that have the right goals in mind, are pushing themselves to better themselves every single day. Most importantly, they know how to follow their rules and they know how to follow risk management. So Alex, watch this space because he's going to absolutely smash it as a trader, especially a portfolio manager for CTI. So if you're interested in any of our funded programs, then go ahead and use the link in the description below. And before you go, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and make sure that you share this video with other traders who really need to hear this advice and this wisdom from Alex. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.